Welcome to Lost Relation Chronicles.
It has recently come to my attention that my wife thinks me either incredibly naive or just tremendously stupid. I knew that she had been stepping out on me for over the last 6 months. I even know her lover's name, where he works, and where he lives. You see, she had just given me that phone call that every husband dreads. It was the simple, "Honey, we have to talk. We need to talk as soon as you get back from your trip." Her timing was great. It was early in the business day, and since I had already wound up my contract negotiations, I had some time to execute a plan I had in place for just this day. I decided to stay in Philly an extra 2 days just to have an alibi for some things I had arranged to happen when this day arrived, as I knew it someday would. I had lots of things to do to keep me occupied anyway, since I already knew the witch was cheating on me. I had had a meeting with my business attorney months ago. He listened politely to my story and straightforwardly told me that what I really needed was a divorce lawyer and gave me a referral to one with officers in same building named Dana Willowsby. As it turned out, Dana was also a divorcee, and a damned attractive one at that. Dana asked me why I thought that and was cheating. I told her about finding a discarded birth control wrapper on the floor next to the trash basket in the master bath. Birth control pills are not the usual compliment for a couple when the male partner had a vasectomy over 10 years before. Then, although not so conclusive, was the fact that our sex life had seriously lagged since last March. At the time, I suspected something was wrong, but didn't know for sure until I found that wrapper. Dana let me know this was going to be messy unless we could find some leverage to force and to accept reasonable terms. She then referred me to a private investigator. I met with him and included pictures of my wife, our address, her work address, and a description of her car and her state tag numbers. I also filled them in on a lot of her lifestyle information and daily habits. I wrote down the times of day she did this and that. I also remembered her gym appointments and the name of her personal trainer. Well, with everything already in place, all I needed to do was make a couple of phone calls. The first call was to Dana. She set several other wheels in motion. Dana's first was to her private investigator. The private investigator had already spent a great deal of his time and my money fully documenting Anne's adultery. He had collected and assembled an album of photos and audio DVDs. His role now was to have a number of envelopes containing the evidence delivered around the city, envelopes crammed full of pictures of Anne and her lover at sex. There was also a DVD showing them in action with full audio and full stereo too. The first one went to Anne's parents. They would be crushed. That no longer mattered to me. I had been crushed too, and it was now payback time. I was sad to have to hurt them, but it was a way to dim their view of their daughter. They had always treated me quite well. The second went to her boss. The company where Anne worked was contracted to the U.S. government doing highly classified software development. That seriously meant her job was toast, as was her security clearance. The third envelope went to our pastor, just to ensure he was aware of her real moral state. I'm sure he would be open and forgiving, because that's what pastors do. No problem. Just as a kicker, I also knew that the church secretary would open the envelope before passing it to pastor. She was such a gossip it would be all over the congregation, if not all over town, in just a few hours. Her siblings each all got envelopes too. No big deal there though. I just wanted them to know how much and had she'd hurt me. She would not be able to go to them and lie about me. Anne, of course, got personally served the main envelope. Her copy had the notarized and signed copy of the divorce petition. Anne's envelope also contained all the pictures that everyone else had gotten, and a DVD of her tryst with her lover. But the rail topper was a second DVD, also showing her boyfriend in action with 7 other women he was screwing while doing her. All the video tracks were nicely stamped with date and time so she could see for herself that her lover's having sex. On advice of counselor, I had my accounting clerk go back and create new pay records for me and readjust corporate earnings too. Just in case she did decide to put up a fight, we could present these cooked books to show that we were living from hand to mouth. Being able to produce these documents on such short notice would give credence to the accuracy of the books. Besides, books presented for divorce evidence are only very seldom audited. My full earnings and company profits were safely set aside in dummy accounts with other banks. The same applied to all my other forms of wealth as well. My stocks, bonds, notes, and real estate were nicely put out of Anne's, or her attorney's reach. I made a few other calls from Philadelphia as well. The first few were to our credit card companies. I paid each balance in full with electronic transfers and canceled the cards. Anne's car was also a lease. I canceled the lease and the car insurance as well. Unfortunately, the lease didn't run until the end of the month, so I was stuck with that, but it was okay in any case. Her fuel card was now void too. The next issue was our house. Here I was stuck. The planning of what to do with the house was a bit more complicated. Our state being community property had my hands tied a bit. For the furniture though, I did prearrange with a consignment house to have all our furniture taken to his store for immediate cheap bargain basement sale and provided him with the front door key. He would take everything except those items that Anne had brought into the marriage, like her grandma's coffee table and the grandfather clock in the hall. The movers were required to leave a receipt on the coffee table and a check for half the estimated value of the furniture. When it entered the house, there would be nothing but her clothes hanging in closets or packed in boxes. We even took half of the small kitchen appliances. I did say I had time to prepare for this. There was just one more detail to take care of, that being one Lamar Johnson. Lamar was Anne's lover. By the way, he was also Anne's personal trainer at the gym where she went 3 times a week. And even though he was a gigolo with no intentions of ever marrying Anne, I just felt I owed him a little something as well for seducing my wife into his bed. Well, not his bed exactly. He used motel rooms and had paid for out of my company's profits. She always kept her earnings separated. Now being in the construction business, I knew people who knew people who knew people in the insurance, extortion business. It was not even a problem to find a couple of strong arms to deal with Mr. Johnson in the manner I prescribed. It seems Lamar, being a personal trainer and pimp, prided himself on staying in considerable good health. He made sure his muscles bulged to attract neglected white wives with money to spend on him. The fact is, his muscles were simply bulk, for show. There was no real strength in them. To make a long story short, my friends paid a visit to Lamar while he was alone in the gym early in the mornings. It seems Lamar, in order to pump up his thighs, would ride the exercise cycle in the standing position. What a shame it was when the baseball bat connected with his chest, knocking the wind totally out of him. First, his penis was amputated about 1 inch from his torso. Then they mangled it with the bat to the point that it could never be reattached. The now mash tool was tossed onto the spokes of the resistance wheel on the machine. After that, the belt to the wheel was severed and frayed to look like an accident. He was still unconscious as they tore his jogging shorts and smeared his blood on the crossbars and handlebars of the machine. Lamar was just going to be out of the gigolo business forever. My friends then just left young Lamar spread over the handlebars of the bike. Horrible accident that, don't you think? Oh, just to make sure of things, I sent a copy of the Lamar DVD to the husband of all of the other 7 women Lamar had been doing, just for good measure. One of them was a cop and would probably have a few sweet words for Lamar. I don't know what legal charges he would face once one pissed-off cop was done with him either. Well, let me see. I think I took care of Anne's job, our house and furniture, her car and her credit cards, as well as all our bank accounts. Since and only ever paid attention to our savings and checking accounts, it was easy to keep them at minimum balances just to avoid her suspicions as I set all of this up. I think I left her about a total of $1,000 to do with as she pleased. Paperwork-wise, we were broke with nothing for her to sue me for. I did leave her with everything else she brought to the marriage with the exception of her lying, cheating ways. Those were hers alone. She could keep them with my blessings. Her name was mud throughout the town. Her job and her security clearance could never be recovered. She was forced out of our church ladies group. Her family let her know she was no longer welcome for what she had done to me. And to cap it off, she was forced financially to resign from the country club where she used to gossip with all her girlfriends, some of whom had also been Lamar's playmates. In the 6 months between when I discovered her cheating and when she had called me with that awful line, I took care of business. She was expecting a clean, quick divorce. She thought she was going to get half of all our money, half of my company, and a big alimony check too. All she got was half an empty house with I had reappraised at 1/4 of its real value. Oh, and she had a sole lover with no tool to satisfy her wandering ways. The last time I saw, and she was totally destroyed, and out of work with no friends nor family. You know what? I had no feelings left for her. I didn't feel any remorse for how I treated her. I only thought about how she had planned on treating me. It was just tough shit. I had been really busy in that time too. I bought and furnished a new condo downtown, not too far from my offices. Oh, and I had courted, dated, and screwed my gorgeous divorce attorney. She also being fresh off a bad marriage with another cheater, we started a new life together. Of course, that had to stay confidential until the divorce became final for ethical reasons. But we have been together as a couple now for about 4 months, and she is willing and ready to take our love to the next level and commit to a full-time relationship. I'm going to ask Dana to marry me next week while we are on our first camping vacation in the Rocky Mountains of Colorado. I love it when a great plan comes together. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.